All groups have norms, but what are they? Can norms be unhelpful? How exactly are the norms of a group set? And do different members of a group have different norms to follow? We're going to be covering all of these questions and more. And stick around until the end, where we discuss a 4-step process that helps group members have a more positive experience in a group setting. But before we get into all that, let me introduce myself. My name is Keegan. I have a master's degree in counseling, and I'm a licensed professional counselor. I make videos like this to help you better understand various concepts in the world of psychology, counseling, and mental health. Keep in mind that engaging with this channel does not constitute a therapist-client relationship. This content is for educational and entertainment purposes. This does not substitute or replace professional mental health care. Group norms. What are they? These are the expectations for what behaviors are considered appropriate or inappropriate in that group setting. The norms also encompass what the rules of the group are. Therefore, the members should know how to behave or not behave based on the norms of the group. In the group setting, norms can refer to a variety of different behaviors and interactions. Often, members will benefit if the group norms include things such as being non-judgmental and accepting of other group members. Additionally, it's often beneficial if the norms include things such as members having a desire for deeper self-understanding and having an eagerness to change. And it's a good sign if group members begin to honor and protect the norms of the group. Interestingly, another norm that can be very helpful for groups relates to the open and honest expression of disagreement within the group. For many, their instinct may be that expressing disagreement would not be a productive thing in a group setting. However, for group members, when they can express this disagreement about other group members or even the group leader and still have the support of the group, this can be a powerful step toward change. In fact, some believe that a group member's disagreement must be expressed. Their argument that this disagreement, if held inside, can fester, and it will lead to that member's disengagement from the group, which in turn begins to hamper the work of the group. Thinking about group norms more broadly, they could also be referred to as the do's and the don'ts within a group. It can also be helpful to think of group norms as having a range of what is expected and acceptable. For example, there's often a group norm that all members must participate in the group. But group participation is not a one-size-fits-all sort of a thing, and often the group norm will not dictate that everyone must participate equally. Instead, there's often more of a range of what is considered acceptable participation. Too little participation and you're violating the group norm. Too much and you're also violating it. I said it earlier, but I'll say it again. All groups have norms. It might be helpful to recognize, though, that the group norms will often vary differently from the norms of the society at large. This is because in a therapeutic setting like a group, how the members are expected to participate is going to look very different than how they behave out in public. For example, it might be perfectly acceptable and even encouraged for group members to discuss their feelings about the group with the group. This is something that's probably not socially acceptable in most other settings, though. Likewise, there's a level of self-disclosure that's expected in the group setting. If members were to disclose to the same level in other settings outside of the group, they would probably get looks and make other people quite uncomfortable. You might be wondering, how are the norms of a group determined and set? We'll discuss that next, along with the 4-step process for positive group member interactions. But first, if you're enjoying this video and finding it helpful, please help me out by giving it a like and subscribing. When it comes to how group norms are established, there are a few different parts of this that are important to discuss. When a group begins, the group leader will often start the group by discussing what the expectations are for the group and the members of the group. This is called setting ground rules. The group leader doesn't need to explain every norm or every rule that they can think of, but there are some standard things that are explained at the beginning of a group. This leads us to some of the different types of group norms. One of the types of group norms are those that are said to be explicit, meaning that they are stated clearly. They are norms that are well-defined and stated outright to group members. Norms that are explicit like this will often relate to things such as the confidentiality of the group, if group members can miss any sessions, and what happens if a person is late to group. When a group leader starts the group by setting these ground rules are explicit norms. Other norms, though, are implicit, meaning that they're not ever stated out loud or even written down, but group members may just instinctively know to follow them. For example, group members will likely know that they cannot just bring a 6-pack of beer with them to drink during the group. This rule or norm doesn't probably ever need to be explained, but group members will just know it and know to follow it. Sometimes, though, norms or rules that were implicit will need to be made explicit at some point. such as if somebody does something to break that norm or rule, such as bringing the six-pack to the group. Therefore, a group will have a mix of explicit norms that have been stated clearly, and others that are implicit and don't ever need to be explained but will be followed by the group members. Because of this mix, it's not uncommon for group members to not be able to explain all of the norms of a group. In fact, the leader of the group probably can't explain all of them either. This is because some of the norms of the group are implicit, and they've never been explained outright, and yet all of the members of the group just know to follow them and have accepted them as a norm of the group. Keep in mind that the norms of the group can come from anyone. Often the group leader will be the one to start and set the initial norms of the group. However, group members themselves may begin to set some of the norms of the group also. Additionally, any larger organizations that the group is a part of or associated with might also influence the norms of the group. Another thing to keep in mind is that the role of the person in the group will also change the norms that they have for that group setting. At first, it might seem a bit odd that different people in the group will have different norms that they have to follow. However, when you think about it, the group leader is a member of that group, and they often have different norms that they have to follow compared to other group members. Likewise, in an open group setting, members who have been there for a longer amount of time may have a good understanding of some of the different norms. And when new members join, those more seasoned members may help to acclimate that person to the norms of the group. Therefore, those who have been in the group longer have a different sort of norm that they're following by helping that newer person get accustomed to the group. This brings us to another helpful bit of info about the norms of groups. A good sign that a group is cohesive is when the members of the group start to protect the norms of the group. Meaning that when the members are starting to make sure that the different norms of the group are being followed, this is often a really good sign that the group is clicking well, that the group is overall strong, that the norms are well established, and that the members of the group are valuing the work of the group. Obviously, we want groups to have norms that are helpful for the group as a whole, as well as norms that help the group members make the changes that they're needing to make from the group setting. That said, group leaders should be monitoring groups for any norms that may be a roadblock to change, or any norms that are otherwise negatively affecting the group. And since norms can change and evolve over time, we need to be careful that we're not thinking of the norms as a set it and forget it type of a thing. Instead, the group leader should always be mindful of the norms of the group, how they're changing, and be mindful of any ways that these norms might be going against the work of the group. And as we're getting to the end, let's talk about the 4-step process. Yalom believes that there's a 4-step process that occurs in groups, and that this process creates a positive, self-reinforcing loop. Furthermore, he believes that this process is enabled by the norms of the group. He states that this begins with trust. The trust leads the members of the group to self-disclose, and this self-disclosure is considered to be an essential part of the group process. Their self-disclosure then leads to empathy, and from the empathy, this leads to acceptance. With that acceptance being the last step, the cycle will then loop back to trust and start again. This was a quick introduction to group norms. If there's more that you'd like to know about these, let me know in the comments. That brings us to the end of this video. I hope that you found it helpful. While you're here, make sure that you check out some of the other videos on my channel. Thank you so much for watching.